What's up everybody, my name is Chris and today I want to talk about a little bit of a story and also a review here on this channel. And how this came about is actually kind of interesting. A couple of months ago in the apartment that I was in before this apartment, I was on ground level. And that actually was the first time in my life that I considered getting a security camera. But now in this new apartment, the situation is very different, but I actually got contacted by a company that makes this little camera right here. Now they sent me one of their products for free. I get to keep this one here and I should share my thoughts. The ethics behind this process for myself, and I also communicated with the company, are that I'm not going to share the final video with them before it goes live. This is an honest review, my thoughts about this product. Just also know that I have been looking for one. I also don't really know much about how any of these work or what they are supposed to be doing, so I don't really have a big comparison. But from all the information that I got from the website, I think that this may actually be a really cool solution. And that's also what I want to document with you together in this process whilst looking at how this is going to be set up. Is it easy? Is it useful? And does it really make sense? Now in the first part, we are going to unpack this. We are going to set this thing up. Then I will probably mount it somewhere in the apartment. And after a couple of days of use, you'll see another segment of me talking about the benefits I've experienced, the drawbacks, the user experience when actively using the device, and also some more information and of course a conclusion to this review. So let's jump right in and open this package up. One of the interesting things here, by the way, is that they actually come sealed and it says do not accept if seal is broken. Caution, sealed package. And my guess is that the reason why they're doing this is that this is a security device. So basically, if this comes opened, maybe someone tampered with it and installed some software hack or something like that so that they can actually spy on you. So if the seal is unbroken, it's pretty much a good indication that this is actually original from the factory. Also a couple of details that I have on the box here. This is a 5 megapixel Super HD camera. It's a 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi compatibility. It can pan, tilt and zoom. There's two-way audio. There's a SD card option and also real-time alerts that you can get on your phone. So that's just written here on the back. And then there's also information about the Reolink app with which you can access this device and others from the go. So that's really cool and I'm really looking forward to how that works. But now let's break this seal and look inside. There's a declaration of conformity. Be prepared, be Reolink. So this seems to be the instructions manual. So there's a little blue paper thingy, the instructions manual, some kind of sticker, and another sticker which you can put that it is 24-hour video surveillance active, and then that's empty. And then we have a little white box here. This has all the cables and stuff. So in this case, there's a charging brick, which seems to be compatible with all kinds of different countries. In my case, Europe. So this is going to be in there. So this is a connection so that this camera can be powered off a wall plug. Then there's also this other one right here. And what I can see, probably a mounting solution. So there are screws, there's a little pin to reset something, as well as this little holder. Putting these things aside, let's look further. And there we have what seems to be the last part. So this is now empty. And this is the little camera that they sent here. So we're going to remove the plastic cover. And what we can see here is that you basically have a very sleek design. Apparently in the back here, it looks like there might be the speaker inside. You can also already see that it can somehow move. So it has wiggle room to the top and the bottom, and then also it can rotate like this. On the back here, there is the power supply, which we just unpacked as well. And yeah, that's the basic setup here. Now, what I would wonder is how do we put a SD card inside of here, which is interesting. So let's have a look whether or not they tell us this in the instructions manual. So apparently the micro SD card slot is underneath here. So we'll probably have to power this thing up and see for ourselves once we have all that set up. But now I'm going to just power this thing up, install the application, and then we can continue from there. So now I actually plugged the camera in and I have not yet downloaded the app. Well, that's happening on my phone.
Please run Reolink app, add the camera and set it up.
And as you can hear, the camera already starts talking. It tells me that I should download the app and then start adding the camera. And now I have downloaded the application and I'm going to also make a screen recording right here. So now you can also see on the screen the recording of what is happening here. I already missed that it asked for the ability to send notifications and something else, and I just hit OK and allow.
Please run Reolink app, add the camera and set it up.
So that's already done, but now there's agree and continue, and we'll see how this goes from now. Now that the camera tells me that I should add it and set it up, I'm going to just plus add this here. And then I need to QR code scan the bottom here, which is really handy nowadays with these smart devices that they just do that with the QR codes and stuff. Now we have the Wi-Fi not configured, so that is not yet done. Yes, I have heard
Please
that.
run Reolink app, add the camera and set it up.
Now we have to add the password here. So now we have the Wi-Fi password added. I click the next. And now we are supposed to scan this with the...
Scan succeeded.
There we go.
Connecting to your router. Please wait.
So the
Router
device...
succeeded. Welcome to Reolink.
So now the device told me that it is connected to the router. That was really easy and fast. And now let's see if we can connect to this camera and see the signal via
Connection to the
Wi-Fi.
router succeeded. Welcome to Reolink.
Very well. Now just the phone needs to be connected to that whole setup as well. And it is connecting.
Connection to the router succeeded. Welcome
Starting
to Reolink.
initialization. And we have a password to choose. So now it shows the password. Let's create the login, the device name, and next. And we have finished the initialization and yeah, save the device's QR code. So now that that's done, we have a Alfred camera right here. And you can see that I can tap on this and I can play it. And based on the screen here, it is working. All you can see is that it has a not so great frame rate, but I would say that that's obviously enough for a security camera. It is relatively dark, pointed at this very bright light at the moment, but the more interesting question is what can you do with this? So what I find really helpful is that it has the date and the time, as well as the name of the camera. And now in my further uncovering of what this camera can do, I would love to see how I can move the camera, of course. That's interesting. And of course, also see what we can do here. Based on this interface, though, I can already tell there's also a mode for a higher quality stream. As you can see now, we have a stream that is not as choppy as the one before. So that's really cool that you can actually choose that. And if you're in Wi-Fi, you can even choose the 5 megapixel mode. So that's really, really cool. What will we have here? Oh, I can choose whether or not I want to record. So apparently I'm recording now. And yep, that happened. And I can also take a screenshot basically. With this, I probably can hear what is being said on the camera, and that's something that I'm going to take and test later on, and that I can disable again. And here, I'm assuming that this is kind of like the mode, how I can operate the whole camera, and now on the screen, I can probably kind of like move around and do all that. and it works. So you can, of course, you can go up. There you can see my microphone setup at the moment. You can turn it. So that works really well. And of course, because it is the Reolink E1 zoom, you can zoom as well. So this is actually a mechanical zoom. I can hear it in the lens and those things. It's not just a digital zoom. So that is actually really, really cool. And you can control focus even there. So overall, this is a really cool setup, and now it's time for me to dive in a little more and also mount it in a more practical situation. I'm going to share my results and also my findings in terms of the interface with you at the end of this review, so stay tuned for that. So I spent a bit of time to set everything up with the camera and such, and getting to know the software. I always think that it's really useful to just play around with it for about half an hour to an hour and see what you can get out of it. This is particularly useful if it goes into a system like this. Now, what I found, generally speaking, this far, I would say the software is not necessarily on Apple's level in terms of design and such things, but they have dark mode, it is relatively easy to use, and it's also kind of intuitive. At certain steps in the software process, they also provide tips and tricks on how to use the whole setup. Now, if you also want to set up the cloud component for storage of your videos in the Reolink cloud, then you can sign up to that on the website. I also found that even with the free plan, you actually get 7 days of video playback. And I think that that is limited to the motion detected playback, so it's not 24/7, but that's really a good thing that they include that for free. Now, there's other options as well, like the SD card that you can put into the camera, and also a option for FTP upload, which I really like, because that means that if you are running any kind of server, be it a local network server or a remote server with an FTP access, you might even be able to upload your footage there. Now, I cannot compare it to other security systems. I can, however, compare it to a recently installed system for heat control in the home of my mom, and there I would say the application is just on par with this. These types of applications, these iOS apps and Android apps, most of the time they aren't really the most designed, but they are functional, and that's exactly what you get here. Something that really surprised me is that they included scenes in this application as well, basically meaning that you can switch multiple devices into certain modes based on a group. But basically my standard scene sets all of the motion triggers, push alerts and such things as active, but not the alarm. Now, if I go into the alarm mode, then the motion trigger, push notifications and all of those things are activated, but the alarm is also activated. So basically meaning that if I leave the house or it's nighttime, I could just put this into alarm mode and it would just ring an alarm whenever the motion is detected. Now, the alarm is mainly coming from the device itself, so it's also maybe off-putting to the person that is just entering the vicinity or whatever animal is crawling around. But I would argue that, for example, if you are putting this into your own home and you want to be woken up, that may be really helpful, because as I know from my own experience, I most of the time don't have my phone on loud or even connected to the Wi-Fi or something, so that would probably just not go through if I would only rely on emails or push notifications. But now it's time for me to take this camera and put it into a logical place. For us, this is going to be around the entrance of the apartment, because basically everybody who wants to enter will have to go through there. So I'm just going to set this up there, and in a couple of days from now, I will conclude this review and give you my thoughts about what I think about the Reolink E1 Zoom. Now, since making the first part of my video here, I have set up the camera right here, which is in the hallway, just pointing at our entrance basically, so that we would have video of anyone who wants to enter the apartment. That being said, we are in the highest floor of this building, so the windows aren't going to be something where someone enters anyway. This is basically the only place where someone could enter this apartment, and that's why the camera makes sense there. But let me talk to you about what it actually did here, what it captured, share some footage of that, and also give you my final review. So now, what am I thinking about the Reolink? You can see I took it back here for a quick overview of what my thoughts are after those first couple of days, and also looking at the footage that this camera provided. Now I'm going to share a couple of clips on the screen here, which is basically just me entering the apartment and also me doing my little part that I just showed you from the video that I was filming there, because obviously that triggered the motion alert. And insofar, the video quality, I would actually say that it is decent. It's obviously not on par with anything like a full-frame camera or something, but I would say for a security system, that would be totally enough for me. What I was actually really surprised by is the quality that this camera provides when it's really dark, because it has the infrared lights that also provide you the night vision mode, so to say. It is kind of obvious though, because there are basically red LEDs around the sides of the camera that show up, and it also constantly has a little blue dot right here. I do think that in the app you can disable the blue dot, but obviously the infrared you won't really be able to get rid of. Now, one of the most important things about one of those systems that is motion triggered and filming is probably the storage of the video that you are capturing when something is happening. And for this camera, one of those ways is actually an SD card, which you will have to basically turn the camera over here and pull it really up. And then you can plug a micro SD card into the bottom here. This is the way that I've been able to really easily test this system and use it with. This is also something where it actually starts to overwrite footage as the card fills up. So if the card is full with footage, it actually starts to delete it from the back and just basically goes in a circle. So it constantly overwrites old stuff and so on. You also have the option of an FTP upload as well as the Reolink cloud. Now, I was in contact with the people at Reolink because for me in Germany, it actually didn't allow me to add the camera to the system and use their cloud service. Apparently that is because they don't have the GDPR regulation ready yet, or they don't have a data center that also conforms to the GDPR privacy rights basically. And they are working on that, but for now, as far as I know, in terms of Europe or specifically the EU with those GDPR rights, you can't really use the Reolink cloud. However, in other countries, namely the US, you can use the Reolink cloud, and then those clips that in my case only are stored on the SD card here are also uploaded to the cloud. So in case something happens to the camera, either it gets stolen, destroyed, or the card gets taken out, you still have those files in the cloud and you can also watch those from remote. You could also use the FTP solution, which you can use to either send it to a home NAS system, or you can send it to your own private server or website hosting company, basically. I do think that it's really important to think where your footage is stored, and that is for multiple reasons. For one, if the camera is mounted or in view just as we have it here, a micro SD card solution is obviously not going to cut it, because an intruder would easily spot the camera, be able to either destroy it or take it with it, and also remove the SD card if they know the system. Now, with a cloud solution, that just doesn't work that easy as long as the camera has Wi-Fi connection and with that also internet connection. The FTP solution is also another one that you can use in that case. Obviously, it's also important to consider where that data is stored if you are uploading it with an FTP or the Reolink cloud. Mainly because you obviously also don't want this footage to be leaked. Because maybe you just don't want to have everybody know who is entering your home. Maybe you don't want to have yourself be filmed when you are walking around in your home, those kind of things. So be mindful of that. Something that I just noticed when picking up the camera again and bringing it back here for the final review is as soon as I unplugged it, it was completely shut off. Now, I'm not sure if the Reolink cloud upload would still work for at least a couple of seconds here, but that was my concern. I would appreciate if this camera had some kind of micro battery backup, so to say, to at least have that moment of being disabled also captured. Now, if the person was in front of the camera and the motion sensor was triggered beforehand, at least it probably is stored to the SD card. However, to the cloud, I'm not so sure. I do know that Reolink also makes a battery-powered counterpart to this that you can use in other settings and also with solar panels, for example, so that might be a better solution for those kind of things. In conclusion, I was really surprised as to how easy it was to set this up. The app really works great if you have a good connection going. You can also access the camera remotely, which is really helpful. That combined with the Reolink Cloud, if you're in a country that supports it, is really a cool thing. And the aspect that they offer 7 days of motion trigger storage for free in their Reolink Cloud is really enticing as well. If you want to have longer storage times, you can obviously either use your own solution with an FTP server or upgrade to a paid plan that they also offer. In terms of the mechanics, I think the device is small enough that it can be really nicely placed. It is really incredible as to how much movement you have with this device and how much remote controlled movement you can create here. The fact that you can zoom, pan and tilt here with this is really helpful. In terms of controlling it, I found that there's a slight delay from when I start the movement on the camera and trigger the control to, for example, pan, and then the camera just starts moving about a second after or so. And I think that can be really annoying because it takes a moment for you to be able to really control it in a nice way, and you really have to anticipate when you have to stop the control on your phone for the camera also to stop in the right moment. And then we have the power solution, and that's this right here. The cord is really long, so that's a really good thing. However, they also did not go with a USB power brick, which is kind of like common use in many other devices. And in this case, they just have this round connector and the power brick. And maybe if they would have gone with a USB solution, then it would be a little more universal. You could power it with a battery brick more easily without having to get a complicated adapter or something. So that would be nice, but the length of the cable I really appreciated. Overall, I can say this is a great feature set. The video quality is good. You can see in day and night time. You can move it. You can also zoom in, and you have multiple storage solutions. You can have the local storage and for a backup also those two different cloud solutions. The device features an alarm if you want to have that kind of a motion triggered alarm for nighttime, for example. You can actually set target zones for the motion trigger so it doesn't trigger on everything but only in certain areas, and you can also set private areas which are then not recorded. For me, this has been the first experience with a security home device like a camera of some sort. It actually feels kind of strange to be filmed every single time you enter your own apartment. But I would say that feeling really is outweighed by the benefit of having it capture any intruder if there would be any. Also, the ability to set an alarm whenever the motion is triggered, specifically at night time, feels really like something I would want to have. I'm definitely going to continue to use this, and it's probably going to be mounted on the ceiling so it's not as obvious as it is right now, just standing there for someone to grab and run away with if they are trying to enter the apartment. Now, once it's mounted, I'm just going to hope that I won't have to ever use it so that it just is a security precaution and not really something necessary. Now finally, in terms of recommendation, if you are in a country that already has the Reolink Cloud available, then I would say it's a great price for a great product. However, if you are not in a country that has the Reolink Cloud available, I would think twice about it. You can still use the FTP upload, and that's a solid option. However, you also have to have the technical skills to set that up. Now, if you have that knowledge, I would say it's a great buy and I would recommend it. Now, I hope this review was interesting for you. I will have links to the product in the description down below, and the Amazon one is actually an affiliate link where I earn a small commission. Now, in full transparency, Reolink sent this product to me for free so that I would be able to make this review about it. I'm not compensated by Reolink in any other way. And they're also not going to see this video before it goes live. Overall, these are my thoughts. I hope they were helpful, and if they were, I would appreciate you leaving a like, subscribing for more videos on all kinds of topics on my channel, and also comment your thoughts in the description down below. Would you put a camera into your own home? Or do you think that this is a good camera? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao!